What's happening, YouTube? It's your boy Kite, the Cosmic Type, and I'm back with another Power System crossover episode. Per some of y'all's request, I'm taking on the challenge of creating a NEN ability for Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. I had a lot of fun making this video, so I hope you enjoy it. Like the video, obviously, if you like the video. So like the video if you like the video. It's pretty simple, right? And then subscribe if you want to continue to see content like this. I'm just trying to like push these out as much as possible. I'm damn near going insane making these, but it's fun. I'm becoming a different person almost. But yeah, let's get into the video. So first, we need to decide what affinity Sukuna is going to be. There's really only one affinity we can go with here, man. The King of the Curses. He's got to be a specialist. And that's not just because he is the King of the Curses, but just his entire repertoire of abilities. The way he's able to use it, he's got to be a specialist. Come on. And this isn't specialist like I did with Turbo Granny. If you haven't seen the Turbo Granny video, check that out. Insane lore. You would like that. I'm sure. It'll be linked at the end. This is specialist in the normal sense. Like where you just combine a few other affinities and that's your ability. You can use 100% of each of those. So those are going to be conjuration, emission, transmutation, and enhancement. That's 4 affinities, but specialist is the category, is the affinity, because we need him to wield all of these with very efficiently in general. Let's get into the name of the ability. It's pretty cool where I got it from. The name of Sukuna's Hatsu is going to be Hiten Axe. Hiten is the name of one of Sukuna's cursed weapons or cursed tools that we never got to see. We saw Kamutoke, the one that Yorozu used her cursed technique on her deathbed to create for Sukuna, and it shot the lightning. We saw that one. But we know, based off pictures and lore, that Sukuna carried another cursed tool that was a giant trident. We know nothing about that. So for the sake of us not getting closure on what that weapon had the potential of doing, I'm going to name this Hatsu based off of that. So it's going to be called Hiten Axe. Now, it was a trident in Jujutsu Kaisen, but I'm going to tweak it a little bit. You can't tell me what I can make it do and what I cannot make it do because we don't know what it does. So I'm going to base this Hatsu off of just the name, not really what the power, I think the power was in Jujutsu Kaisen. So let's get into what does Hiten Axe actually do? The Hatsu, called Hiten Axe, allows Sukuna to conjure up a double bit axe. Now, I'm sure a lot of y'all are not familiar with what a double bit axe is, but it's just a long axe for cutting trees that has 2 heads, 2 sides. But there's something special about it that you may not know unless you've actually wielded one or you're in the business of cutting down timber by hand. One head is kept sharp and a little bit thinner to finally, boom, and cleanly chop right through trees. In contrast, the other side is dull and heavier, and it's used to cut through big knots that you may run into trees or cut through stumps and stuff like that. So each head of the axe has a different purpose. Allow me to elaborate a little further. Each side of the axe has a special function. The thin, sharp side is for launching fast, invisible slashes from a distance. The heavier and more blunt edge is for directly cutting through a person or an object. So, Sukuna conjures an axe, that's the conjuration part that I mentioned at the beginning, and the axe has 2 different edges, and each edge serves a different function. The thin, sharp side is for launching slashes very fastly and invisible. You can launch slashes because this is the emission part that I mentioned at the beginning as well. You need to be able to launch these slashes that maintain their strength once they detach themselves from Sukuna's ability. And you can make them invisible due to the advanced application of NEN called NEN. That's what Kurapika uses to make chain jail. You just turn your Hatsu or your NEN invisible. You don't make it go away, you just make it invisible. Pretty cool. And then on the other hand, we have the dull side that you need to actually, in reality, for a double bit axe, the dull heavy side is for getting these tough, hard knots in a tree stump or a tree. For the ability, the dull side is for getting up close and making direct contact with someone and cutting through them. Funny enough how a double bit axe, both sides function almost identically to Sukuna's Cleave and Dismantle. It's pretty cool, and that's why I used it. I don't know, it just came to me. Pretty genius. Nah, but Cleave is touching someone, getting up close, adjusting your energy to their energy so you can cut through them no matter what, bypass their defenses. And the Dismantle is just launching indiscriminate slashes that cut people from a distance. They're invisible and they hurt. So pretty cool. But allow me to expand on each one of these sides even more. All right, if you're still with me, hit that like button for me, show some love. Okay, so starting with the sharp side, Sukuna cannot adjust the strength of the slash once it's launched. He can control the output before firing it though. So this means once he's launched it, boom. If it wasn't strong enough to bypass their defenses, it just wasn't strong enough to bypass their defenses. Simple as that. But he can control the output before launching it. So if he takes the axe and like puts a lot into it and launches it, if there's a lot in there, more than he needed, it'll slice right through them. But he can only do this prior to the launching of the technique. So there's no adjusting the thin side attacks. It's just, you can adjust it before, depending on how much energy you put into it. But once they're launched, and most likely you won't put a lot into them, especially since you'll probably, if I was Sukuna, to use the thin side, I'd just be like swinging and making a bunch of these slashes. Not really strong, but just to really decimate the field and really make it hard to dodge these attacks, because I do have the other side that can come in and deal the finishing blow. So no adjusting the sharp side. It's just for launching slashes. You can adjust it beforehand, but not after. There is a bit of a sub-Hatsu that comes with the sharp side of Hiten Axe, and it's called Hiten Axe Forest Fire. This allows Sukuna to ignite the slashes that come off of the sharp side on fire. So all the slashes he can send now can become just covered in flames, and now they're burning you as well as slicing you. So as soon as they cut you, they cauterize you. How is this possible? Kind of broken, Kite. You can't really just do that. I can do that because I did mention a transmutation ability. This is that. So what happens is anybody that's cut down with the thin side slashes, after he cuts them down, he sticks the axe in the blood they spill. The axe absorbs the blood, takes that blood, transmutates it, and uses it as fuel for fire to ignite the slashes. You may think that's not possible. It is. Who is it? Phaeton turns pain into fire or heat. So why can't Sukuna take blood from other people that he's absorbed and killed and turn that into flames? He can. Obviously, the slashes are no longer invisible because they're on fire, so that's a bit of a trade-off, but launching a bunch of flaming slashes is pretty ridiculous. And I got this concept with the idea that when you take a regular axe, you chop down timber or trees as fuel for fire. So Hiten Axe in turn chops down humans and absorbs their blood as fuel for fire. So it's a pretty feasible ability. I think Sukuna would do some shit like this. But yeah, this is Hiten Axe Forest Fire. You can ignite the invisible slashes. Obviously, this is a thin, sharp side of the axe technique. You cannot use it with the dull side, but it only works in conjunction with how much blood you absorb. So for every 10 pints you absorb, you can use the ability for 5 seconds. 10 pints is how much an adult human has. So you'd have to kill one human, absorb every single ounce of their blood just to use it for 5 seconds. So this isn't an ability that he can just use all the time. It's more an ability he, works up, kills a bunch of people, and then eventually when he needs it, he pulls it out. It's not something he's just going to use all the time. But nonetheless, pretty broken ability. Also, if he killed like 400 people and absorbed all their blood, he could launch a massive bomb of fire similar to the Divine Flame. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that particular aspect of Hiten Axe. I like that one. So with the dull side, you must make direct contact with the person or object, and when you do this, the axe can adjust the aura in it to cut through the person's defenses or negate their defenses in any manner. Even if you're defending with your hand or your aura, it's gonna cut right through it. Obviously, if you're skilled as an opponent, if you're skilled in aura control and aura manipulation, you can just equal out the aura with the axe and defend yourself. Just like Gon and Kilo would train with Bisky using Ko and stuff like that. I think Ryu, you can do it as well, but Ko is the main one. You can adjust your aura in different parts of your body. So you can defend against this, but you must be a skilled NEN user. If you're not, if you're off by a little percentage, he's gonna cut right through your body. Every single hit from the dull side is potentially fatal if you're not a good NEN user. So that's how the dull side works. Make direct contact and then adjust to the amount of aura. Along with the dull side comes a technique. So this would be Hiten Axe Curse Quintet. So the steps for Curse Quintet are Sukuna is required to make contact with the dull side 5 times in a row. So if he uses the thin side in any of that, it will reset Curse Quintet and deactivate it. But he needs to make contact with you or your aura. So if you go to block a hit from the dull side and it hits your aura, that counts as a hit. If you launch a Hatsu attack of any sort at him, if he cuts through it or makes contact with it, that counts as a hit. So once he completes these 5 hits, he can strike you down with either side in 1 hit. All this means is that after the 5 hits, he can now use either side to launch a tailor-made slash or hit from the axe that will cut through your Hatsu or your aura in particular. Very dangerous, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, you can still dodge this. It's not like it freezes you in place when he goes to attack, but he's gonna kill you or do major fatal damage if he hits you after these 5 hits, because the aura is in the axe is particularly catered to your Hatsu. Now, this is not something he uses all the time. Curse Quintet is not an ability he uses all the time because he can just kill people before that. Most time, 99% of people are gonna die before he has to even use that. He'll just adjust the dull side normally or hit you with a slash when you're not looking, overwhelm you. That's how he fights. This is for particular cases, like say he's fighting Netero and he's fighting the Guanyin Bodhisattva and he's getting bing, 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 bing. He's getting packed up by the hands and he's like, fuck, like this is a very difficult and tricky ability. Let's activate Hiten Axe Curse Quintet. He pulls it out, makes contact with the hands while getting packed up 5 times. Somehow he managed it, and then he can now cut the hands as they go to hit him. He doesn't have to just block them or get hit with them. He can now cut through them and start doing damages, or he can launch a slash that cuts Netero himself with the thin side. I'm not saying it'll kill Netero instantly, but it will do damage to him if it makes contact because it's tailor-made to Netero's aura at that point, and it's going to be devastating. This ability would not work well against someone like Crollo because Crollo has a shit ton of different Hatsu, and so trying to adjust to all of them would be basically impossible. But then again, Hiten Axe is it's a very versatile ability, and he could probably kill Crollo before without even having to do Curse Quintet, in my opinion. So this is broken, but not that broken. There are more broken abilities in this. Bungee Gum, for example, 1 touch from Bungee Gum equals death. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you don't understand that by now, we gotta make that known. If you get touched by Bungee Gun, you're dead. Crollo knew this. That's why he ran and hid behind all the guys and changed his appearance and used 7 different Hatsu to beat Hisoka. He knew that 1 touch from Bungee Gun, that was death. It equals death. So yeah, it's 2025. If we still think Crollo was ever stronger than Hisoka, we gotta wake up, bro. I don't know what y'all are reading. But yeah, this isn't that broken. I believe that if Sukuna could use NEN or wield NEN, he would be the absolute peak of NEN use. He's a genius. He's a savant. It's just what he is. And I think that he would master it and do crazy shit. So with that in mind, I've created 2 more abilities that go along with Hiten Axe. Listen to the first one. The first sub-Hatsu is called Hiten Axe Quivering Earth. This allows Sukuna to enhance the vibrations, so this is the enhancement part that I mentioned at the beginning, enhance the vibrations from the impact of the axe, effectively turning the axe into a vibroblade that cuts through stuff like butter. But it only lasts as long as the initial impact's reverberations, and you could only use this on the dull edge of Hiten Axe. So what it does is when he hits you, the vibrations that come with smashing an axe on someone or something, those vibrations last a few seconds, but he enhances those vibrations and vibrates the blade to where it just simply slices through you like nothing, like a lightsaber. Now that I've finished explaining the entirety of the ability, I'd like to take a few minutes here to just shoot the shit and tell you, or just explain how I think Sukuna would use Hiten Axe, because I've just explained the ability, not how he would use it. So sorry if this video is a little long and you don't like that, but I'll try to keep it concise from now on. So I believe Sukuna being weird, first of all, he has 4 arms. So fighting up close with Sukuna, trying when he's using the dull side to really adjust his output to beat your output and cut off your arms or whatever and do damage, I feel like that would be almost impossible to defend against because he has the 4 arms. And you go to block it, he can drop it, boom, catch with the lower 2 hands, cut you up. Or he goes to hit you or punch you, you block with 2 hands, then he takes his other 2 hands and slashes you with the axe. There's just nothing to really be able, you can't do anything against that. And I need to mention, because I forgot to say it, that the sharp side does not cut directly. So if you were to go to hit with the sharp side, it's not going to do any damage, obviously. So keep that in mind, because I think that Sukuna, being what he is, he's the peak of energy, control, and manipulation. Whatever verse you drop him in, he's going to be at the top in terms of control. Like if it was infusing chakra, aura control, curse energy, manipulate, he'd be at the fucking top of that. So I think he'd find some freaky ass way to split Hiten Axe in half. So the person saw the ability originally. One side, those slashes only, and one side has to get up close and do damage. He'd split that into 2 different axes that both have a single head instead of 2. So it's the same ability, it just appears different, because it's 2 identical axes that have 2 different functions. Now imagine having to fight that after seeing Hiten Axe originally. Say he's fighting up close, doom, doom, doom. He's got 4 hands, so he can switch these around at any point. And he goes to hit you. You have to adjust or account for the fact that you don't know which axe is going to hit you. They look identical. You don't know if this is the one that is the sharp one, where if it hits you, it's not going to do any damage. You know that, but you don't know that. So you have to act according, like every single hit is from the dull one, and if it hits, he's going to adjust and he's going to do a heavy damaging blow to you. But what if he fucks your timing up by going to hit you with the sharp one, and you're like, oh, that's the dull one, he's coming in close, I gotta dodge. And as you're thinking that, he just bursts a slash out from the thin slide from close range, and it just slashes you, fucks up your timing. There's no way to defend against something like that. You don't know which one is which. He can switch hands. Maybe he can conjure multiple Hiten Axes at once. He can conjure like 2 or 3, and they don't all function the same. 2 of them are just copies of the original, and they don't actually have any abilities, but they're identical, and you have to pay attention to every one. You can't just ignore it, because the potential threat is too dangerous to ignore. And conjuring multiple axes is not an issue. A conjurer, freaking Karapika conjures 5 different chains. It's not a difficult thing to do. Once you've conjured it, you can conjure it without any abilities. It's just a regular axe. But it looks like Hiten Axe, and you have to take that into account. Ridiculous. Or he can conjure 2 Hiten Axes and split the ability different from the other way. They both have double edges, but only one axe has dull sides on both, and the other one has sharp sides on both. So one can only launch slashes, and one can only get up close. But you don't know if both sides work on both of them. He can mess with your mind so much. This is why I said throw him on the Dark Continent. I'm pretty sure he thrives. There's not really anything that could fuck with him, to be honest. And you got to think he has a shit ton of aura, because he has a shit ton of curse energy. Translate that over, verse equalization, as people like to say. I hate that shit, but in this case it makes sense because we're being creative and not assholes. But yeah, so verse equalization, he has a shit ton of aura. So when he's launching these slashes, if he's fighting a giant monster, he just puts a bunch of energy into it and just launches a slash at it, and he just cuts it right in half. There's nothing you could do about that. There's so many things that aura could possibly do with a Hatsu, but we just don't know because we haven't explored it enough. I think Jing is the device, the plot device that is going to be the one that explains what you could really do with aura. Like Hatsu isn't the end all be all. You can do Hatsu without having it be your Hatsu. We've seen Jing do that. And so I think he's going to be the one that, enlightens us if we ever get to that. But this is insane, bro. How do you think Sukuna would use Hiten Axe? If you're creative enough to think of different ways that I didn't mention, Sukuna's smarter than me. Barely, just a little bit, but he's so intelligent that he could think of ways that I created this ability, but if he had it, he could do way more stuff that I'm not even thinking of, like vibrating the axe. He can conjure 2 axes and keep the axes vibrating. That way he has a constant fucking lightsaber that's just slicing shit in close range. There's just so many things he could do, and it just would be insane. Imagine that, man. But yeah, I just wanted to take a few minutes here to chop it up with you. Let me know your thoughts on Hiten Axe and how Sukuna would use this, where he ranks in the verse with this. You could probably shit on Meruem. I don't know, it'd be a good fight. They got comparable intelligence. It's just I'm worried about Sukuna's durability since he wouldn't have reverse curse technique. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Leave a like, guys, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will catch you in the next one. Peace. 君の気持ちを大事にしなかった私の頭